Now that I gave you just a hint of the complexity of European communication, I would like to bring you to this contrast with the post-truth and how is impacting, is affecting the European institution. There are three main challenges, or we can call causes, of affecting the European institutional communication. First and main one is ignorance. It's not much, and I will give you examples in a second, it's not much about how EU is known, it's how it is perceived, which is a big problem for people who work in communication. Definitely a big problem. I mean, it depends. If I was a political communicator, I would be happy about it, because I want my candidate to be perceived in a way. If I am an institutional communicator, dealing with people perceiving what I'm doing rather than knowing what I'm doing, it's something that causes me trouble. Second one, I mentioned before, is the medium of national governments. So this filter that is done regularly by governments, and in most of the cases in a way that communicates the EU in a negative way. So EU is not bringing us benefit, EU is bringing us sacrifice. In Italy we have this way of saying that is the EU that is asking us to do this. It's a typical sentence that you will hear from prime ministers every time there is, I don't know, reform of pensions. When I was serving as the head of communication of the Italian government back with the Monti government, I remember that this big debate that I lost actually, and I didn't want him to say outside, when he reformed the pensions, he raised up of 3 years the age in which you will go to pensions. Can you imagine how impactful a decision like that is on citizens, on people? Still, he went out saying, is Brussels asking us this? Which was not accurate. That was the way that he and other people thought that he should communicate this decision. The third one, and it's a big problem that, I don't know if it's a problem, it's something that we have to deal with, is populism. And populism, if you think about European populism, is attacking the EU exactly on the topics on which the EU is weak. Migration, economic growth, the rights of the citizens, think about these privacy rights. So let me bring you a few examples about these three challenges. This is the first one that I told you before, the ignorance. Ipsos Mori is it's a polling company. They do every year this ignorance index. What they do, they go to people, the large public that I showed you before, and they ask them about topics of different kind. I would like you to focus on the first one, that is migration, and the fourth one, that is Muslims. Why? Because those are two hot topics in the European agenda. Migration, for obvious reason, and Muslims, because in the perception of people, it's Muslim, Islam, security, terrorism, attacks. So those are two important topics that are in the European agenda. And here you see, and what they ask them questions about these topics. For example, how many immigrants are in your country? What do you think? How many immigrants are in your country? And this is what people answer. So in blue, you have the actual number. Take, for example, let's take Italy, which is amazing. We have 7% of immigrants in our country, 2016. But when you ask people, people will tell you that in a class of 10 people, 30% would be immigrants. So that's a complete distortion in the perception of people, in what the people know about migrants and what we actually have. And the same applies to most of the countries. Second of all is Muslim. So again, let's see Italy. Okay, if you ask Italians, we have 4% of people who are Muslim in Italy, but still, if you ask 10 people outside in the street, they will tell you that out of 10 people, 2 are Muslim. So there is 16% wrong estimation from Italians. And again, you can see from all other countries in Europe. What does it mean for European communication, for European institution communication? It means that you have to deal with people who have a completely wrong idea on the topics that you're trying to deal with, which is a big problem. It's not, in my opinion, the primary task of the European institution to inform citizens about the actual facts, not the primary. It's one of the tasks, but it's not the primary one. But definitely, a problem that you have to deal with is the fact that people ignore some basic facts that then are relevant for the political agenda. The national medium. This is amazing, and I told you before. So, do you know what? It's a photograph, and probably it doesn't tell you anything if you're not Italian. But maybe you are informed. Do you know what is this about? Leonardo, yes.
You removed the European flags before giving us a speech.
Who's this guy?
Renzi.
Very well. Matteo Renzi, the former prime minister, he resigned a few weeks ago. You know that in Italy we had this referendum that he called to reform the Italian constitution. He put his face on the referendum, and since the beginning he told, if I'm losing, I'm going to resign, because this is the main task that I'm supposed to carry on in my mandate. So as Leonard correctly said, notice, you see that behind me, you just have Italian flags. When you see the communication on every prime minister or the head of state, depends on the constitutional system, there is always, in European Union states, of course, there is always behind the national flag and the European Union flag. Now, why I'm using this picture? This was taken a couple of weeks before the vote in the referendum. He calls it Matteo Risponde, Matteo Answers. And it's a moment, 45 minutes. You see, he has a computer and a tablet. And basically on his Twitter timeline, everybody can send him messages, ask questions, and he will answer in real time. So you can watch it on streaming on Facebook, and you can even participate. So you can get a chance to be answered on your question by the Prime Minister. Well, according to his communication consultants, since it was pretty clear already that he was going to lose the referendum because the populist wave in Italy is very strong in these days, and of course populists were opposing his idea of how to reform the constitution, he's been very pro-European, Matteo Renzi. He's been really communicating until that moment an approach of we should support Brussels, we are Italy, founding fathers of the European Union, we should be into the European Union communication. From one day to another, with this clear approach, and many others, but this is clear, he started to say, well, if the mood of Italians is about criticizing the EU, well, maybe I should marry this approach, and I should look more sympathetic to what Italians think and start to fight and accuse the European Union. Just to give you another example, there was a conference, a big one, with Italy, France and Germany, and he pretended not to go with Angela Merkel and François Hollande at the press conference, saying, well, I defended my position about migration. These two politicians are defending their national interests, and this is not acceptable for Italy, so I'm not even going, when they have a meeting, and then they go in front of journalists to communicate. And then in an interview that Angela Merkel released a few days after, she said, well, actually, I don't understand why, because we reached an agreement, so he made this scene. And I tend to believe more to Angela Merkel than to Matteo Renzi. So, filter on national governments. That is, and I use my country, but I'm pretty sure that everybody could mention cases like this in your countries if you are from the European Union, of course. It's typical that national government try to change the communication of the European Union in a way that is positive for the national government, but in most of the cases not for the European Union. And third one is populism. I'm not going into details with this. I think this is the most worrying information we have. In this very moment, this was taken in late 2016, so it's very actual. We have at least 1 out of 5 European voters that are thinking about voting a populist party. We are in a city right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, in which a few months ago, Five Stars Movement, which is the main populist party in Italy, got elected a mayor. So the mayor of Rome now is the main city in Italy, the capital city, is run by Five Stars Movement. And if you see the polls in Italy again, you will see that the Five Stars is the first party, at least according to what people say they are considering to vote. Then you always have someone reflecting a little bit more. But think about Marine Le Pen in France. Think about the Dutch politicians. Well, UK, it's a clear example. So, and as I will mention later, 2017 will be a year of a lot of elections in the national level. So that is another problem that sooner or later the European Union, in terms of communication, will have to deal with. So how this is impacting these the ignorance, the filter of national governments and the populism, the rising populism? I have 2 cases to show you. The first one is Brexit, and the second one is TTIP. So Brexit, well, everybody knows the result. The result is that Mr. Cameron, who bet on Remain, as it was called by media, lost against the face of exit Boris Johnson, former mayor of London. But it was a tiny win, 51, 52 almost against 48, and still it was the vote. That is what most of the people know, right? Okay. Let's try to see. And I can tell you, I was in Brussels those days. It was a complete shock. I don't know, I can't tell for everybody, but I can definitely tell you the mood of higher levels of the institutions. Nobody expected that result. It was really a slap in the face. This is the age of people. I was talking before with the director, and she actually pointed out an interesting point that I didn't consider. There was a change in the registration for voting. So these should be considered. But having said that, until 45 years old, so millennials, but 35, 44, so let's say people younger in age, they all voted for Remain. They, in a way, all have an idea of the EU as something who is more beneficial than something that has a negative impact on their lives. And then if you go over 45, especially 65, it's people who voted for getting out. And then I will let you ask your question, if I understand your question. Just last thing, but what happens that these people, in terms of number of people who went to vote, were in minority compared to this one. So, who decided the effects of Brexit, mostly in terms of age, were the people that went to vote, and those people are people over 45 years old. Yes, I don't know if Felix, yes.
In media, at least in Germany, the German media always stated that the majority of the young Brits voted for Remain, but that's completely not the case, because like 70% of the young, like 18 to 24, didn't even go participate in the election. So just stating that the majority of the young Brits voted for Remain is just completely wrong.
I agree with you, and that's why I added, because I imagine that exactly, okay, it depends, you know, statistics is something that you can interpret in different ways.
No, you cannot interpret anything. If 70% of the young Brits don't even participate in the vote,
But those who voted, we have this way of thinking. I agree with you, but we have this way of thinking that statistics is the science. If we go for lunch and I eat a chicken myself, we had half a chicken each, right? That is statistics. It's debatable as any kind of science. But having said that, I agree with you that they didn't go to vote. That's the thing. Those who went voting, mostly, and then it depends, you can go to see the the geographical area. So London, for example, was very different from the countryside. But those who went to vote mostly were in favor of Remain rather than Brexit. But they didn't go to vote. That it's completely right. I agree with you. So, of course, if the title of the newspaper says younger people, they were totally in favor, it's a misconception. I agree. I'm with you on that. But still, consider also the fact that the few who went to vote were mostly in favor. So the problem is, why they didn't go to vote?
Exactly, that's the right question.
That's the right question. I agree with you. But
But
would you agree with me that at least those who went, the few who went, they vote, not all of them, but
When talking about the majority, so in media they said the majority of the youngest voted for Remain, but if you talk about the majority didn't even participate in the election.
Yeah.
So the point is, the media should have stated the young rich are so frustrated by the European politics that they didn't participate in the election.
Totally.
And that's a completely different case than saying that they voted for Remain.
No, I agree. I think that the problem, at the end of the day, the problem is that all this debate that went on for months didn't convince young Britons or people living in the UK to stand up and go to vote. And this is not just for Brexit, actually. If you see everybody, everywhere in Europe, younger people are those who are completely disaffected by politics. And it also affects the communication. So I agree. The problem, as Felix says, is we can, newspapers have to sell. So they try to give you the title that they believe is most important. But the information here is that young people decided that it was not even worth standing up and going to vote, which made the other people who had a different idea for different reasons winning, if a winner exists in these kind of things, the elections. Oops, sorry. Okay. This is also interesting, again, about post-truth. What they asked a few weeks after, what exactly, why did you vote for staying or going outside? And, there was a lot of discussion, and at a certain moment, Boris Johnson, I think, or Nigel Farage said, well, they're going to reform the health system, we're going to have a system in which you will have less welfare. But basically, what made people voting more for leave rather than staying was immigration again. Immigration. In a country, but I travel a lot of times to London mostly, and I'm surprised, now Italy is a multicultural country as well, but not even close to the multiculturalism that I see, at least in London. I'm not talking of all England, right? But still, and they have a mayor, for the first time. Is he Muslim? Yeah. Okay. So the idea that I have as an Italian is, wow, this is really. I don't know if they cope with each other, but definitely it's much more multicultural than what I see. Even in Brussels, it's less multicultural than some cities in Italy. And still, most of the people was the message, I don't want because European Union is going to get us accepting other quotas of people that we don't know, that we don't want. And the other one is European Union. European Union is about all the debate about which money is bringing us the European Union. This is another thing that we were discussing before. For a while, I've been in the budgetary unit of the European Parliamentary Research Service, even being a legal scholar, so not really knowing much about budget. But one thing that I learned is that the UK, you might remember Margaret Thatcher saying, I want my money back, this very famous sentence. Well, that I want my money back turned to be the UK rebate, and simplifying a very complex argument, basically the UK, even being a net contributor to the EU budget, at the end of the fiscal year is one of the countries that will get more of the money back in terms of subsidies to agriculture, for example. Still, the message that was sent out, and that most of the people vote, was, well, Brussels is asking us more money than we receive. And last one, this is more a forecast. Then they asked outside, well, now that UK had the chance to vote Do you think in your country we should have the same? Just to show you how, I'm not saying that democracy is a risk, of course not, but you see how in the communication that goes outside, then you have most of the countries say, yeah, we would like also to decide, because we have a lot of parties that are convincing us that this European Union is a big failure. If you ask some Italian, I don't know if you happen to know any Italian, but people that are over 35, so that they remember something of when we had the lira before the euro, the typical thing that they will tell you, I remember when with 10,000 liras, 10.000 lire, which will be 10 euros now, I remember I went out, I put the gasoline in my car, I would buy a beer with a friend of mine, and then maybe I will also get a sandwich before going home. Ask around and you will receive this answer from people over 25, which is completely wrong. I'm 40, so I remember that. It's not true. I mean, 10,000 liras was barely enough for putting the gasoline in your car. But the mood, the way people think is that back in the days, with what now is 10 euros, and I don't even put the gasoline in my scooter, I could have a night out with friends, with beers, gasoline, and I don't know, buying some food. Second case, do you know anything about TTIP? Before I start entering details. Okay, long story short, because it's a very interesting but also complicated thing. TTIP stands for Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership. Is an international trade agreement supposed to happen between the European Union and the United States. And it concerns all the topics that you see here. It was huge. Huge. It was about a lot of things. I'm not saying, I don't know if it will turn out in something useful for us Europeans or not. What I would like to show you, April 2016, so very recent, few months before it was clear to everybody that the TTIP deal was failed, please have a look at what was still on paper, I mean, not even like started to discuss, not even start to fight about it, and what was actually in a state of being approved. I get two information out of this. First is that most of the things were still under discussion, rather than being almost finalized. And second of all, some of the topics that in a few weeks will become the center of the critics were actually in the paper level. Anti-corruption. One of the main critics was these people are letting, these bad people, bankers, rich people, they're going to make money outside of the public scrutiny. Well, the rules supposed to address that topic in April 2016 were still in a draft level, just to give you an example. Another topic was the agriculture. Well, agriculture was underway, but there was this big message in Europe. The United States are bringing us these GMOs, and we are going to eat plastic rather than the beautiful food that we have in our countries. That was the message. And December 2015, so step back, at the end of 2 years ago, here you see how many people, Eurobarometer, were in favor of the TTIP. Germany has been the most opposing country since the very beginning, but again, if you see the average, I would say that most of the countries were close to half in favor, half against, and many countries even like a lot of people favoring the TTIP. So what changed? What happened from not one day to another, but from 1 month to another, that completely changed the message outside of what the TTIP was doing? This. I will leave you the slides if you want to have fun about the myths. All these messages that you find here were slightly made part of, well, not slightly, actually, in a very aggressive way, made part of the communication of the small NGOs that had joined into a consortium to oppose the TTIP, starting to say, if we're going to have the TTIP, food safety, I told you before. So, you want to have plastic on your table, you want to have food. it's amazing the number of wrong information that were sent out. Remember the first slide, when still the negotiations were happening, so there was no idea at all that this was happening. And by this kind of communication, this is, if I'm not wrong, Rue Belliard, this is the European Parliament, so main avenue, screen, TTIP game over, bus stop, you see, like, for those who are my age, remember this game, video game, again TTIP game over, and in the subway station, I don't know if you can read it, but it's democracy is over with the TTIP.